The Manhattan skyline glitters like 1,000 promises through my office window. Promises kept, at least to myself. I press my palm against the cold glass, 32 floors above a city that never betrayed me like my family did. My phone vibrates against the mahogany desk. Unknown number, Texas area code. I nearly decline spam calls are relentless these days, but something stops my finger. Professional curiosity, perhaps. In my line of work at Meridian Partners, unexpected calls sometimes mean unexpected opportunities. Hannah Carter speaking. The silence lasts only a second, but it's enough for my body to register the threat before my mind can name it. Hannah, it's Mom. 11 years of carefully constructed walls crack in an instant. The world tilts sideways. Mom, not your mother or Denise, but Mom. As if the last decade of silence had been a mere commercial break in our relationship. My hand grips the edge of my desk, knuckles whitening against the rich mahogany. The New York skyline blurs behind unexpected tears. Hannah, are you there? I swallow hard, forcing steel into my voice. I'm here. I wouldn't call if it wasn't important, she says, her voice carrying that panicked edge I remember too well. Greg is back. He's threatening me. Greg. The name alone sends ice through my veins. A montage of memories floods my mind, the mansion in Austin, the rain soaking through my clothes, my sister's face pressed against the window, Greg's voice booming through the night. She's too old to support. Lucy stays. You go. And my mother's silence. That damning, crushing silence that sentenced me to homelessness at 21. A knock on my office door snaps me back. My assistant pokes her head in. Your 2:00 is waiting in the conference room. She pauses, studying my face. Everything okay? I nod sharply, holding up one finger to signal I need a minute. Professional mask firmly back in place. Mom, I'm at work. I need to go. Please, Hannah. Her voice cracks. He left me with nothing. Worse than nothing, $80,000 in debt. Loans I never even signed for. He put everything in my name. The familiar script. Different man, same story. My mother, perpetually victimized by men who promised security only to steal it all away. Except this time, it was Greg who returned. The master manipulator himself. 11 years, Mom? I say, my voice dropping to a whisper. 11 years without a word? The wall clock ticks loudly in the silence that follows. German-made, precise. I count 7 ticks before she speaks again. I know. Her voice is small now. After 7 more years with him, he left me with nothing. He's threatening to sue me. I have nothing left. I straighten my spine, years of survival instinct kicking in. And what makes you think I have anything for you? The office window reflects my face pain and resolve battling for dominance. Behind me, the framed diplomas and certifications that chronicle my rise from community college to senior financial analyst. The life I built alone, one 16-hour workday at a time. The long pause tells me she expected immediate help. Expected the daughter she abandoned to rush to her rescue. I'll call you back, I say finally, ending the call before she can respond. I turn to the New York skyline, silently vowing this time will be different. I built myself from nothing once. The rain-soaked girl with suitcases at her feet is gone. In her place stands a woman who knows exactly how financial predators operate and how to stop them. My assistant knocks again, more insistent this time. She enters without waiting, concern etched across her face. Everything okay? You're white as a sheet. Fine, I say automatically. Family call. Her eyebrows shoot up. Family? I didn't know you had family. I never speak of them. Not the mother who chose a manipulative man over her daughter. Not the sister I was forced to leave behind. Not the years of working 2 jobs waitressing days, convenience store nights while putting myself through night classes. There's a lot you don't know about me, Kate. I straighten my blazer, compartmentalizing the emotional hurricane into a tidy box to be dealt with later. Tell Reynolds I'll be right there. Alone again, I slide open my bottom desk drawer. Hidden beneath perfectly arranged files is a single photograph, Lucy at her high school graduation. A photo I found online years ago, saved and printed. My sister, forever 16 in my memories, grown into a young woman without me. My finger hovers over the callback button. Would helping her just enable the cycle all over again? Or do I owe it to Lucy to step back into the toxic family dynamic? The clock ticks loudly as past trauma and present success collide, and I'm caught in the wreckage. The financial statements spread across my dining table tell a story more damning than any crime novel. My apartment, expensive but deliberately impersonal, serves as command central for the investigation I never wanted to conduct. No family photos grace these walls, no mementos of a shared past. Just clean lines, neutral colors, and now, evidence of Greg's treachery. I've been analyzing these statements for hours, the numbers revealing Greg's predatory pattern with the clarity of a confession. My laptop screen glows with his social media presence, carefully curated photos of charity galas and business summits. Son of a bitch, I whisper, zooming in on a recent photo. There he stands, arm wrapped possessively around a striking woman in her 60s. Margaret Holloway, real estate magnate with holdings across 3 states. The diamond on her left hand catches the light, an engagement ring the size of a small pebble. His next victim, already marked. My red marker squeaks against the printout as I circle another suspicious transaction. The pattern is unmistakable to someone with my training. I should be preparing for tomorrow's client presentation, not untangling my mother's financial disaster. Yet here I am, 11 years of built walls crumbling under the weight of familial obligation I thought I'd buried for good. My phone vibrates. James Thornton, the former FBI agent I hired yesterday. His silver hair and weathered face had seemed at odds with the cutting-edge financial crimes he specialized in, but his reputation was impeccable. "I've found a pattern, Miss Carter. This isn't his first rodeo." I'm listening. My fingers trace the edge of a bank statement showing suspicious transfers. 5 women over 20 years. All wealthy when he met them, all left with nothing. His voice carries the gravelly weight of someone who's seen too much. He systematically fraudulent agreements, transfers assets gradually, then vanishes when the accounts are drained. The information isn't surprising, but confirmation still lands like a punch. I've got a timeline drawn up at my office. Names, dates, amounts. It's extensive. "Send me everything, then I'll come see it myself," I say, already reaching for my jacket. James's office is old-school detective-worn leather chairs, filing cabinets with dented edges, and a corkboard now covered with photos of Greg. The pictures span decades, showing him with different women at different events, always smiling, always in control. Patricia Lowe, 2003, lost her inheritance and family home. James points to a photo of Greg with a blonde woman. Rebecca Daniels, 2007, signed over her business assets. Another photo, another woman. Catherine Miller, 2011, took loans against her property portfolio. Greg with a redhead. Sarah Jenkins, 2015, emptied her retirement accounts for investment opportunities. A brunette looking adoringly at Greg. And my mother, I finish, staring at a recent photo of Greg with Denise. 2018 to present. Each scheme more sophisticated than the last, James says, tapping the timeline he's created. The amounts getting larger. The paper trails more complex. He pulls out another folder. "This is what you're paying me for. Shell corporations in Delaware, property holdings in Nevada, offshore accounts in the Caymans. Your mother's signature on documents she probably never saw." "And now, Margaret," I say, studying the photo of Greg's latest target. "What's his timeline looking like?" Based on previous patterns, we're late in the game. The engagement is when he usually moves to secure major assets. My stomach knots. Another innocent about to be destroyed. The thought bothers me more than I expected. My mother's apartment in Dallas sits in a complex that's seen better days. Faded yellow stucco crumbles around door frames, and the air conditioning units rattle like they're running on borrowed time. Gray paint peels from the metal staircase railing as I climb to her second-floor unit. When she opens the door, I barely recognize her. 11 years have carved deep lines around her eyes and mouth. Her hair, once vibrant auburn like mine, has dulled to a lackluster brown with gray streaks. Her hands tremble slightly as she steps aside to let me in. Hannah. My name sounds brittle on her lips. You came. The apartment is nearly empty, a threadbare couch, a small table with mismatched chairs, walls bare except for a stack of legal documents piled high on the counter. The hollow echo of my heels against the linoleum underscores the emptiness. Where's Lucy? I ask, removing my blazer in the stifling heat. The air conditioner hums but barely cools the space. California. Got a scholarship to UCLA. A flicker of pride crosses her face. She doesn't call much either. The words are meant to sting, but I let them slide off. I'm not here for reconciliation. Show me what he had you sign. She pulls folders from a drawer, hands shaking worse now. Mortgage documents, power of attorney forms, loan applications with her signature, some genuine, others clearly forged. The sticky residue of coffee cups has left rings on several pages. As I sort through them, a pattern emerges of systematic exploitation. He said it was for our future, she says, her voice small. For investments that would set us up for retirement. I look up sharply. And you believed him? Again? You don't understand how charming he can be. Actually, I do. My voice hardens. I understand exactly how men like Greg operate. It's what I do for a living now, analyze patterns, detect fraud. Her eyes widen slightly, taking in my tailored slacks, silk blouse, the confident way I handle the documents. She's merely seeing me for the first time in over a decade. Maybe if I'd been more careful with money, she begins. The statement ignites something in me. This isn't about being careful. This is about a predator who targeted you specifically because he knew you were vulnerable. I pause, choosing my next words carefully. But you let him in. You chose him over your daughters. Twice. Her flinch tells me the arrow hit its mark. Lucy left 2 years ago, she says after a long silence. Said she couldn't watch me make the same mistakes anymore. Got that scholarship and just went. She moves to a small side table and opens the drawer. I found this afterward. She hands me a photograph I've never seen before. Lucy in a graduation cap and gown, her smile bright but her eyes holding something guarded. The image was taken from a distance, clearly downloaded and printed rather than taken personally. She graduated high school without either of us there, my mother says quietly. I touch the photo carefully, as though it might disintegrate under my fingers. My sister, no longer 16 but a young woman I don't know. The guilt I've carried for leaving her behind threatens to choke me. Back at James's office that evening, I stare at the evidence board with grim fascination. A knock at the door interrupts us. Arthur Mercer, my boss at Meridian Partners, steps in looking decidedly out of place in his bespoke suit. I'd confided in him yesterday, expecting professional consequences. Instead, he'd offered resources. The subpoenas for his banking records came through. Arthur says without preamble, "You were right, Hannah. Offshore accounts, shell companies, the works." He hands me a flash drive. Our forensic accountants found transfers to accounts in Singapore, Luxembourg, and the Bahamas. Nearly $12 million over the past 15 years. James whistles low. With this, we might actually nail him. There's more, Arthur says, his expression grave. He's been appointed to the board of Margaret's charitable foundation. That gives him access to nearly $40 million in assets. I feel the blood drain from my face. How long? The paperwork was filed last week. Arthur replies. Hannah, if you're going to move on this, it needs to be soon. My phone buzzes with a notification, a response to my carefully worded message to Lucy. A simple text, "Video call tonight, 8 p.m. your time." First contact in 11 years. My chest tightens with a feeling I don't immediately recognize. Hope. That evening, I secure a temporary restraining order from my mother. The relief on her face makes her look younger as she signs the papers in James's presence. "Thank you," she says, attempting a smile over coffee in her sparse kitchen. "I never thought that I'd help." I finish for her. The coffee is bitter and weak, a far cry from the artisanal blends I've grown accustomed to. The mug leaves a sticky residue on my fingers. She looks down. "That you could. That you'd become someone so capable." It's the closest thing to a compliment my mother has ever given me. I'm not sure how to respond, so I don't. Instead, I reach for the photograph of Lucy she showed me earlier. "May I keep this?" She nods, and I slide it carefully into my portfolio. A sister I abandoned, now perhaps a crucial ally in what's coming. He'll fight back when he realizes what we're doing. I warn her. I know. For a moment, I glimpse the stronger woman she might have been without decades of manipulation. My phone rings James's number. "You need to see this now," his voice is urgent. "He's done worse than we thought." I check the time, almost 8. Lucy will be calling soon. I'll be right there. When I arrive, James's expression is grim. He turns his monitor toward me, showing evidence of fraudulent investments, identity theft, and something that looks suspiciously like blackmail. The red markers on his timeline now extend back 25 years. "We found evidence of 2 more victims," he says, voice low. "One attempted suicide after losing everything to him." On another screen is Margaret's Calendera wedding planning appointment scheduled for next week, and a meeting about transferring property holdings as a wedding gift. "She has no idea what's coming," James says quietly. I stare at her face on the screen, another innocent about to be destroyed. In my pocket, Lucy's photograph burns like an accusation. If I'd warned someone about Greg 11 years ago, would my family still be intact? Do I warn her and risk everything I've built? I whisper, knowing the answer even as the question leaves my lips. The clock on the wall strikes 8. Somewhere in California, Lucy is waiting for my call. The sister I couldn't protect then might be the key to stopping Greg now. I take a deep breath and reach for my phone. The letter sits on my desk like a poisonous snake. Cream-colored letterhead, embossed with the name of a law firm I recognize from television commercials. "Cease and desist." 3 words that are supposed to make me cower. Jessica from accounting pauses at my open door, eyes flicking to the letter. "Everything all right, Hannah?" "Fine," I say, sliding the letter into my drawer. But it's too late. By lunch, whispers follow me down the hallway to the break room. My phone vibrates. Denise. I still can't bring myself to label her mom in my contacts. "He was here," she says, voice trembling. "At my apartment, banging on the door, saying if I didn't call you off, he'd—" "Did you call the police?" I cut in, ducking into an empty conference room. "I can't. He said he'd tell them about the loan applications. That I knew." "You didn't know." But even as I say it, I wonder, how much did she choose not to see? Arthur's assistant appears in the doorway. "Miss Carter? Mr. Westfield would like to see you in his office." Perfect timing. Arthur doesn't waste time with pleasantries. "Is there something you need to tell me, Hannah?" I've rehearsed this moment. A former associate of my mother is attempting to intimidate me through legal channels. It's personal, not professional. "This former associate, Gregory Wallace?" Arthur slides a printout across his desk. An email from Greg's attorney to the firm's partners, painting me as unstable, vindictive, obsessed with her mother's ex. "It would be unfortunate," Arthur continues, "if clients began to question your judgment. The threat hangs between us. 11 years of impeccable work endangered by a man who's never met me. Give me 48 hours, I say. I can prove he's a fraud." Arthur studies me, then nods once. 48 hours. My apartment transforms into a war room. Financial statements cover every surface. Birth dates, business registrations, property records, bank transfers. I connect them with red string, like detectives in the movies, not because I need the visual aid, but because I need to see the whole picture, the enemy fully revealed. At 3 a.m. I find it. The pattern. The beautiful, damning pattern that only someone with my specific training would recognize. Greg diverts funds through a series of shell companies, each one receiving exactly 17.3% of the previous transfer before moving the money again. Not a round number. Not 20% or 15%. Specific enough to avoid detection, consistent enough to track once you know what to look for. I lean back, staring at the ceiling. A laugh escapes me, sharp and sudden in the quiet apartment. He picked the wrong woman's family to destroy. The Whitefield Foundation Gala glitters with wealth and privilege. Crystal chandeliers reflect in polished marble floors. Women draped in designer gowns. Men in bespoke tuxedos. A world that should intimidate me. It doesn't. I spot Margaret Whitefield immediately tall, elegant silver hair swept into a perfect chignon. Diamond and sapphire earrings catching the light as she laughs at something her companion says. Her companion, Greg. He hasn't seen me yet. I watch them together, his hand possessively at her waist, her trusting smile. She has no idea what's coming. Miss Whitefield. I approach during a moment when Greg steps away to greet someone. I'm Hannah Carter. I need 5 minutes of your time. She looks me over, professionally polite but dismissive. Regarding Gregory Wallace and the 5 women whose financial lives he's destroyed. Her smile freezes. I'm afraid I don't, including my mother. I keep my voice steady. I have documentation, patterns spanning 2 decades. Greg appears at her elbow, champagne flutes in hand. His smile falters when he sees me. Margaret, darling, who's your new friend? His voice is smooth, but his eyes are already calculating. Hannah Carter. I extend my hand. Denise's daughter. The recognition hits him like a slap. He recovers quickly, charm sliding back into place. Hannah! After all these years! What a lovely surprise! Margaret glances between us. You know each other? Family friends, Greg says smoothly. No. My voice cuts through his lie. My mother is one of the women you left financially ruined. I have the evidence with me, all of it. Margaret's face hardens. Perhaps we should continue this conversation in private. The small antechamber off the main ballroom feels like a deposition room. Margaret sits rigid, shoulders back, as I lay out the documents one by one. 5 women over 20 years. Each relationship lasts between 4 and 7 years. Each ends with massive debt in the woman's name, debt she didn't know about until you were gone. I slide across the most damning evidence: bank transfers, loan applications with forged signatures, the pattern of 17.3%. You proposed to her last week, didn't you? I ask. Margaret doesn't answer, but her hand moves instinctively to the enormous diamond on her left hand. The door opens. Greg starts to enter, but Arthur blocks his path. My boss-me unexpected ally. Miss Whitefield requested privacy. Arthur says, his silver Harvard Law cufflinks gleaming. Behind me, another door opens. I turn, and for a moment I can't breathe. Lucy. My baby sister stands in the doorway, no longer the 16-year-old crying at the window, 27 now, poised and beautiful in a simple black dress. Sorry I'm late, she says, walking toward me like we've been doing this together for years. She slides into the chair beside me, and beneath the table her fingers find mine. Squeeze once. I squeeze back. Margaret breaks the silence. He proposed last week, at my vineyard in Sonoma. Her voice sounds hollow, her fingers touching the diamond again. My lawyer is on his way. The investigator I hired stands sentry at the main door, his former FBI posture unmistakable. He nods at my perimeter secure. Greg won't interrupt again without a fight. I have the recording, I say gently, pushing my phone toward Margaret, of what he said to my mother last week. I press play. Greg's voice fills the room, threatening Denise, demanding she control your daughter or he'd take everything else you have left. The color drains from Margaret's face. Greg shoves past Arthur into the room, charm abandoned. This is ridiculous. A desperate woman trying to extort money with fabricated. It's your voice, Greg, Lucy interrupts, steel beneath her soft tone. I'd recognize it anywhere. He falters, seeing her for the first time. Lucy? What are you doing here? Standing with my sister. Her hand tightens on mine under the table, where I should have been all along. Margaret removes her engagement ring, places it deliberately on the table between us. The diamond catches the light, throwing prisms across Greg's suddenly pale face. I stand, my sister rising with me. It ends here, Greg. No more women. His mask slips. Rage transforms his handsome features into something ugly, something true. You have no idea who you're dealing with, he hisses, leaning close enough that only Lucy and I can hear. I will burn your entire life to the ground. Lucy doesn't flinch, neither do I. Margaret's lawyer arrives, a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who takes one look at the documents spread across the table and begins taking photographs with her phone. Miss Carter, Margaret says, her voice steadier now. I have resources, connections, whatever you need to stop him. We'll need them, the investigator says from his post. He'll come at you with everything he's got. Lucy's eyes meet mine, worried. What about Mom? He could still hurt her. We'll protect her, I promise, though I'm not sure how. What I don't say, none of us will ever be truly safe until Greg is stopped completely. My apartment door stands slightly ajar when I return home. The hair on my neck rises. Inside, papers have been disturbed, drawers left open. My hidden safe behind the bedroom mirror hangs open and empty. My phone rings. Unknown number. You should have stayed away. Greg's voice slides through the speaker, smooth as oil. Those documents won't help you now. I hang up, a smile spreading across my face. He took the decoys. He has no idea about the real evidence. The game is just beginning. The clock reads 3:17 a.m., but sleep is a luxury I abandoned hours ago. The glow of multiple monitors bathes my office in clinical white light, illuminating the faces of my unlikely war counsel. Today we dismantle everything he's built, I say, scanning the room. Lucy sits cross-legged on my leather sofa, her college hoodie a stark contrast to the tailored precision of Margaret's designer suit. Arthur leans against the wall, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, a rare departure from his boardroom perfection. James, the silver-haired investigator, spreads documents across my desk with methodical precision. The timing has to be perfect, James says, tapping his watch. Greg's type gets sloppy when cornered. I nod, turning back to my screens where Greg's empire lies exposed in columns of numbers and legal entities. Lucy, are the regulatory filings ready? Locked and loaded. My sister's voice carries a confidence I barely recognize. The timid 16-year-old in my memories replaced by this fierce young woman. SEC, IRS, and state agencies will receive identical evidence packets at 9 a.m. Margaret's manicured finger traces a line on her tablet. I've spoken with 7 of Greg's principal investors. They're prepared to pull out simultaneously when the first allegations go public. Arthur? My boss, no alley straightens. The firm is fully insulated. Board unanimously approved our involvement once they understood the scope of his fraud. They're actually eager to be on the right side of this. The plan unfolds with precision born of months of preparation. Financial chokeholds, regulatory investigations, business partnerships severed. A digital dismantling that will leave nothing but scorched earth where Greg Wallace's empire once stood. By dawn, I've transferred the final documentation to secure servers. Arthur's legal team stands ready with injunctions if Greg attempts to liquidate hidden assets. Margaret's financial connections, once Greg's life linen, now form a noose around his corporate throat. My phone vibrates. Mom's name flashes on the screen. "He's here," she whispers, voice trembling. "At my apartment," pounding on the door. Lucy's head snaps up, eyes widening. "We prepared for this," I remind her, voice steady. "Mom, is your phone recording like we practiced?" "Yes." "Good. Keep him talking. The police are already on their way." 10 minutes later, my phone pings with a video alert from the security camera we installed outside Mom's apartment. The sight of Greg's wrists being bound in handcuffs sends a ripple of grim satisfaction through the room. "Domestic intimidation charges won't hold him long," James warns. "They don't need to," I reply. "They just need to hold him while we execute everything else." By mid-morning, Greg's carefully constructed facade begins to crumble. His attempted transfer of $1.2 million to the Caymans bounces back accounts frozen by federal authorities. Phones across Manhattan Financial District light up with the news of ongoing investigations into his dealings. At noon, Lucy stands before a hushed crowd at the Women in Finance Luncheon event Greg had been scheduled to keynote. "My name is Lucy Carter," she begins, voice wavering only slightly. "And I'm here to tell you about the man who destroyed my family and defrauded dozens of women across this country." The room falls silent as she methodically details Greg's patterns, producing documentation that backs every claim. Professional women lean forward, recognizing the tactics, seeing their own near misses in Lucy's words. Meanwhile, across town, Margaret hosts an impromptu press conference outside her real estate offices. "As a business leader and a woman who narrowly escaped becoming Greg Wallace's next victim, I cannot remain silent," she tells the assembled reporters. Camera flashes punctuating her words like exclamation points. Arthur forwards me the email from our company PR department. The subject line makes me smile. "Response to Wallace allegations." Greg's desperate attempt to smear my professional reputation has backfired spectacularly. Instead of distancing themselves, Meridian Partners has issued a statement fully supporting my ethical stand against financial predators. At 2:13 p.m., Margaret forwards me an email from Greg. Desperate, threatening, his mask slipping. "He's showing up at the emergency hearing disheveled," James reports from the courthouse. "Made quite the scene, Judge, was not impressed. Wanted you to know he tried to board a private flight to Barbados an hour ago. Customs stopped him." My office phone hasn't stopped ringing. Former clients of Greg's, business associates, even an ex-fiancé from 15 years ago, all calling with stories, evidence, corroboration. "The financial community is closing ranks against him," Arthur says, loosening his tie further as he drops a stack of printouts on my desk. "These are statements of support from 12 major investment firms. They're not just distancing themselves, they're actively helping us." The rhythm of justice is almost music alone, drumbeat after another, each impact weakening the structure of Greg's life until nothing remains but rubble. At sunset, Lucy and I share a rare, quiet moment by the window of my office. The golden light catches her face, reminding me of the child I was forced to leave behind. "You know he still has offshore accounts we haven't touched," she says. "The ones in Singapore." "I know." My computer chimes with an incoming email. Anonymous sender. Lucy leans over my shoulder as I open the attachment. The breath leaves her body in a soft whoosh. "Is that what I think it is?" I nod slowly, scrolling through account numbers, transaction histories, and a list of names, dozens of names. Women like my mother. Victims spanning 25 years. "This is bigger than us, Lucy." "Than Mom." I swallow hard, studying the meticulous records of Greg's crimes. Millions hidden. Lives destroyed. "Who sent this?" I shake my head. someone inside his organization with access to everything. The last page contains a single line of text. How far are you willing to go for justice? Outside my window, New York City transitions from golden sunset to the harsh blue-white of office lights and street lamps, the clinical illumination of consequence. All the way, I whisper, more to myself than to Lucy, but not just for us anymore. I reach for my phone, dialing James. I need every federal contact you have, I tell him. We're going nuclear. For the first time in 11 years, I feel a weight lifting, not just the burden of my own abandonment, but something larger. The weight of responsibility for every name on that list. Every woman who stood where my mother stands now. The clock ticks toward midnight as we mobilize a new offensive. Not just to save my mother, not just to punish Greg, but to ensure he never hurts anyone again. The institutional green of the federal courthouse walls reminds me of hospital corridors, places where life-altering news is delivered with clinical precision. I straighten my charcoal blazer, the weight of the evidence binders in my attaché case a reassuring anchor. Miss Carter. James, the silver-haired investigator who's become an unexpected ally, approaches with coffee. His eyes crinkle at the corners. They're bringing him in through the side entrance in 10 minutes. I nod, accepting the paper cup. The bitter liquid steadies my hands. Lucy slides onto the bench beside me, her presence still new enough to surprise me. My sister no longer the 16-year-old face pressed against the window, but a poised woman of 27 with our mother's cheekbones and a resolute chin all her own. Mom just arrived, she says, her voice low. She looks scared. She should be, I reply, then catch myself. Not of Greg. Not anymore. But facing your own complicity isn't easy. Lucy's hand finds mine, a bridge across 11 years of absence. Through the massive oak doors, flashbulbs erupt in the corridor, the press scenting blood in the water. All rise. The bailiff announces as Judge Harriman enters the courtroom. The weight of federal authority fills the room like a physical presence. I stand, back straight, eyes forward. Across the gallery, I spot Arthur, my boss, nodding slightly. Behind him sit 3 rows of women Greg's previous victims, brought together through careful outreach. Their collective presence creates a tapestry of justice long overdue. The side door opens. Greg enters, flanked by marshals. His Italian suit hanging differently now, the shoulders slumped, the crisp lines defeated. When his eyes find mine, the hatred in them could burn through steel. I don't look away. The federal prosecutor, a woman with iron-gray hair and a reputation for ruthlessness against white-collar criminals, approaches the bench. Your Honor, the United States has filed a 47-count indictment against Gregory Wallace for wire fraud, identity theft, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes across multiple jurisdictions. The hearing proceeds with the machined precision of the federal justice system. I watch Greg's face as each piece of evidence I've gathered over months, years, reallys introduced. The offshore accounts, the falsified loan documents, the pattern of fraudulent investments spanning 2 decades. My testimony comes mid-morning. The wood of the witness stand feels cool against my palms as I swear to tell the truth. Miss Carter, please explain to the court how you first identified the pattern of financial exploitation in these cases, the prosecutor asks. I lean toward the microphone. The signature was consistent across all victims. Mr. Wallace would establish joint accounts but structure them to provide him backdoor access to independent funds. He created shadow agreements that the women never saw, using electronic signatures captured from legitimate documents and applied to fraudulent ones. As I speak, I feel rather than see my mother flinch in the second row. The technical details flow from me with professional detachment, the wire transfers, the account manipulations, the strategic bankruptcies that left each woman holding debts while assets disappeared offshore. Greg's attorney attempts to discredit me during cross-examination, his voice dripping with condescension. Miss Carter, isn't it true that your investigation into my client stems from a personal vendetta because he chose your mother over you years ago? The gallery stirs. The judge peers over her glasses. No, I reply, voice steady. My investigation began when I recognized a pattern of financial abuse that matched professional red flags I'm trained to identify. My personal connection provided context, not motivation. The attorney pushes harder. Yet you've spent years building this case in secret. Years of your life dedicated to destroying my client. For the first time, I allow myself to look directly at Greg. Not at the man he presents himself to be successful, charming, confident, but at the predator beneath. I didn't have to destroy anything, counselor. Your client did that himself. I merely documented it. The evidence mounts through the afternoon. The testimonies of previous victims. The financial forensics experts confirming my analysis. Margaret, the woman who would have been Greg's next victim, describing how she discovered her own accounts had already been compromised. When the marshals lead Greg away for a consultation with his attorney, Lucy leans forward. Did you see his face when they introduced the SEC findings? He had no idea you'd gone federal. I nod. That's because I didn't just build a case, I built a trap. The most damning evidence arrives after lunch records from a third-party digital forensics firm showing Greg had already begun transferring Margaret's assets before their planned wedding. The judge's gavel cracks like thunder. Bail is denied. The defendant poses both a flight risk and an ongoing danger to others. As they lead Greg away in handcuffs, he lunges toward our row. This isn't over, Hannah, he hisses. I rise slowly to my full height. The courtroom falls silent. All eyes on us, the predator and the woman who stopped him. Actually, it is, I reply, my voice carrying in the hushed gallery. You picked the wrong family. Outside, the harsh lights of news cameras create a gauntlet. Greg's walk of shame down the courthouse steps plays out beneath a barrage of clicking shutters. I stand at the top of the stairs, Lucy and my mother flanking me as reporters shout questions. Miss Carter, how long have you been building this case? I step to the microphone. Since the first time I recognized the pattern, some predators have a signature. Mr. Wallace's was in his financials. Across the crowd, I spot James with his arm around Denise, steadying her. My mother looks smaller somehow, the weight of her enabling role finally acknowledged. When our eyes meet, there's something new there, not just remorse, but a painful self-awareness. The federal prosecutor joins me at the microphone. This case has expanded to include multiple jurisdictions. We expect full restitution for all identified victims. As the press conference concludes, Lucy guides me toward the waiting car. Behind us, the courthouse stands like a monument to consequences finally delivered. What happens now? She asks quietly. I look at the waiting vehicle where our mother sits, hands folded tightly in her lap. The harder part, I reply, figuring out if we can rebuild what was broken. The car door feels heavy in my hand. Beyond justice lies the undefined territory of healing, and I'm not sure which required more courage, destroying a predator or forgiving the mother who once chose him over me. The Manhattan skyline glitters with spring sunshine as I place the Ethics in Finance Award on my office shelf. Not prominently displayed just there, a quiet testament to the last year's journey. I trace my finger along the engraved words, remembering the courtroom, Greg's face as they led him away in handcuffs. My phone vibrates. Lucy's name brightens the screen. My dissertation proposal was approved, she says, excitement threading through her voice. The committee called my research on financial abuse patterns groundbreaking. Pride swells in my chest, real pride, not the brittle defensive kind I've wielded like armor for years. Of course they did. You're seeing connections no one bothered to document before. Sunday dinner still on? She asks. The casual question carries weight. These monthly gatherings remain delicate constructions, like buildings with beautiful facades but foundations still settling. My calendar shows the reminder. Family dinner, Mom's new place, 5 p.m. Scheduled and color-coded. just like my quarterly earnings reports. Wouldn't miss it, I say, and mean it. The photograph on my desk catches afternoon light. Last Christmas, Lucy, Mom, and me standing before a modest tree in Mom's apartment. None of us looking entirely comfortable, but all of us present. It's something. Financial predators count on silence and shame. I tell the audience at the Women's Economic Empowerment Conference. My voice carries through the hotel ballroom, steady and purposeful. They isolate their victims, create dependency, then exploit it. 200 women watch me, some nodding in recognition. Others sit perfectly still, the way prey animals freeze when sensing danger. I know that stillness, lived in it for years. The patterns are remarkably consistent. I continue, advancing to the next slide. But so are the warning signs. I don't share the full story. Don't mention Mom by name, or Greg, or the rain soaking through my clothes 11 years ago. Those details remain mine. But the financial manipulation tactics, the legal vulnerabilities, the recovery strategies, these I offer without reservation. Afterward, a woman approaches me, twisting her wedding ring. My husband handles all our finances, she begins, eyes darting around the room. But lately, I hand her my business card. Not the glossy Meridian Partners one, but my personal card with my cell number. Call me anytime, I say, meeting her eyes directly, day or night. She slips the card into her purse with practiced discretion. I recognize the movement, the careful hiding of anything that might trigger questions later. As she walks away, I count silently. 7 women approached me after last month's workshop. 9 today, each one carrying a story both unique and eerily familiar. My apartment feels different with people in it. The modern furnishings I selected for their clean lines and absence of sentimentality now serve as backdrop for something I never planned. Community. Arthur raises his glass of scotch. To the newest senior partner at Meridian, he announces, his usual boardroom authority softened with genuine pride. To Hannah, echoes Margaret, elegant as ever in tailored navy. Since breaking free of Greg, she's channeled her considerable resources into expanding her foundation for financial abuse survivors. James, the investigator, stands near the window, looking characteristically uncomfortable in social settings. Greg's appeal was denied yesterday, he says, his gruff voice cutting through the congratulations. Thought you'd want to know. Lucy grins, raising her glass higher. Now that's worth celebrating. Mom sits slightly apart, perched at the edge of the gathering. She's wearing a blouse I've never seen, something new and crisp, bought with her own money from her new part-time bookkeeping job. Progress measured in small victories. Thank you, she says suddenly, her voice soft but steady. All of you, for helping us. The room quiets. It's the most she's said all evening, the most she's acknowledged what happened. The us catches in my throat, a collective pronoun that includes both herself and me after years of separation. Arthur clears his throat, uncomfortable with the emotional turn. Well, Hannah did the heavy lifting, we just provided backup. No, I correct him, surprising myself. We did it together. This admission of interdependence, of needing others, would have been impossible for the Hannah who stood watching the Manhattan skyline a year ago. That woman believed vulnerability was weakness. This woman knows better. Sunday evening bathes Mom's modest apartment in golden light. Through open windows, spring air carries the scent of new growth into a space that finally feels like it belongs to her alone. Mom stands at her kitchen counter, textbooks spread beside the cutting board. Community college accounting assignments due tomorrow. Professor says I have a knack for auditing, she says, chopping vegetables with careful precision. She's lost the frantic edge that once defined her movements, replaced by deliberate purpose, finding what doesn't belong. Lucy laughs softly from the sofa where she's reviewing research notes. Poetic justice. I arrange plates on the small dining table, the routine of these gatherings becoming familiar, if not yet entirely comfortable. The silverware gleams in neat rose-me contribution, this attention to order. The women's shelter asked me to teach another financial literacy workshop, I say, folding napkins with hospital corners. 20 participants already signed up. They're lucky to have you, Mom says, and the compliment hangs between us. We gather at the table, this triangle of wounded women slowly reforming into something that resembles family. Conversation flows easier than it did 6 months ago, harder than normal families might experience. But normal was never our inheritance. After dinner, I help Mom with her homework while Lucy washes dishes. The comfortable silence between us feels like an achievement in itself. I'm proud of who you've become, Hannah, Mom says suddenly, her pencil pausing above balance sheets. The words that once would have crushed or elevated me now simply exist, stones tossed into still water. I feel their impact, watch the ripples, but remain unmoved at my center. I became who I am despite what happened. I say, my voice carrying no resentment, just simple truth. She meets my gaze directly, something she rarely did in those early tentative reunions. I know. A pause stretches between us, not uncomfortable but weighty. I failed you, she says finally. When Greg told you to leave. When I stood there and said nothing. The admission isn't a revelation. We've covered this territory in therapy sessions with neutral mediators present. But hearing it here, in her own space, without professional prompting, carries different meaning. Yes, I say simply. You did. No dramatics, no tears. Just acknowledging the truth we both know. The accounting homework sits between us, columns of debits and credits awaiting reconciliation. But we're here now, I add, tapping my pen against the table. That counts for something. She nods, pain and acceptance mingling in her eyes. I know. And there it is not forgiveness exactly, but something equally freeing. The acknowledgement of truth, the absence of the need to make her understand what she can never fully comprehend. Later, as twilight softens the edges of the city, my phone chimes with Lucy's text about starting a nonprofit for financial abuse victims. Another notification follows the final restitution payments processed to Greg's victims. I delete the case files from my computer, each click severing another thread tying me to the past. Not forgetting I'll never forget, but choosing what to carry forward. Then I open the email from Mom, her first paycheck, photographed and sent with a simple message. Look what I did. The balcony offers a moment of solitude as Manhattan transforms from daylight to electricity. My phone rings. Hey, just checking in, Mom says, her voice still carrying traces of uncertainty, as if permission to call remains tenuous. Hey, Mom, I answer, watching lights blink on across the city. The simple exchange represents not a perfect relationship, but a healthier one. Not a clean slate, those don't exist in families like ours, but a new page. Freedom isn't about escaping the past. It's about choosing your future.